Hello, Ben here with Studio on the Lake. So this is a couple projects that only one in this video, but there'll be a couple more videos later this week if I get my act together. And this is a climbing bear. It's a classical, old school children's toy. And this one could have used a little different string to climb a little bit better, a little thicker string. But sit back and enjoy. So here we go. It doesn't matter what this guy looks like. There's a couple of mechanics in here that I'll talk about as we get into that. But busy. So we're wrapping up here at Studio on the Lake, wrapping up things that are going on in the summer, trying to get ready for winter coming in, messing with the garden, that sort of thing. So we start out as usual with a piece of basswood. Not a particularly good piece. You saw the back side of that, and then one side has a little bit of pith on it and various stuff. So once again, this does not matter what he looks like because it's a kid's toy and it just has to represent a bear. And it's old school, back in the days when you didn't go down to Toys R Us or Walmart or Target and pick up kids' toys. You sat around the fireplace in the wintertime and you made them. So I'm trying to lay this guy out, and I was thinking I might have had a piece that was wide enough for his arms. So I'm just kind of rough sketching what in my brain would be a bear, not getting too wrapped up about it because I'm not, if you've watched or are a subscriber to the channel, you know that a lot of times my drawings are rough, and then what actually comes out is completely different. So I'm looking at this and I don't have room for the arm. So I kind of continue sketching it in, and then I decide at some point that the arm is just not going to make it and they're going to end up separate pieces. So here's the rough character sketched out. I wanted to put his feet up in the corner. I have seen ones where the feet are articulated, and I've seen ones where the string actually goes through the hands and the feet. So here's my power carver. That's an Elite, and it's got a 3/32 collet in it, and then this is the ball from Sabertooth. And the ball, as I've talked about before, if you're a subscriber, you know I like it because I can go in any general direction, whereas a cylinder or a cone, I'm kind of relegated to staying in one plane working on it. So you could get this guy out of a piece of pine. It doesn't have to be this thick. It just happens to be a piece of scrap that I had sitting there. And I'm going to rough him in. I really haven't had a chance to work on, or a desire actually, to do certain things. I have to be in a mood for that. And the gallery down in Madison that has a lot of my stuff in it, they had a big art tour and they sold some stuff, and they needed some more little birds and various different things. So and they asked for a couple of these toys. This guy here is one that they ask for, and then there's a second one. There's a series, if you've ever seen them, and they're kind of tagged as coming from Russia, although they came from the Erzgebirge version, or up in Germany. There's a place where they do a lot of the small carvings. It used to be part of East Germany, or very close to East Germany, where the folks sat around in the wintertime and carved small animal figurines and that sort of stuff. I should probably do a video on that someday because it's a really interesting area. But if you've ever seen the candelabra lights with the windmill from Germany, and various cutouts that go in the window with a light behind them, a lot of those came from Erzgebirge, and I'm probably saying that wrong. I'll get corrected by my wife and kids. But this was old school. His arms are not there right now, and I'm going to glue those on with pegs. And you can see that I'm using that brownstone chisel. Anytime I can grab a chisel and get rid of the dust, it's a plus. I do have my dust collector did come in. So the two big items that I ordered, the bandsaw and the dust collector, basically 6 months later, they did come in. And right now I'm waiting on a few fittings because I took the dust collector. It's a jet 1.5 horsepower, and they call it a cyclone. Has a big filter on the top, but I modified it into a two-stage dust collector with a cyclone Venturi or vortex collector, and that'll go right into a trash can. So I'm waiting on the fittings for that. It's ridiculously loud. Eventually, when I get the studio rebuilt, it's going to end up underneath in on one portion that sits out over towards the lake, a little, I don't know, 5 by 10 storage area, but it'll be down one level, kind of like a basement, and I'll put it down in there with the 6-inch hose running through the floor, and then I'll pipe up various different dust collections. I've got an idea for fixing my chair up. My old black chair. This is another rocker that was in the house, or actually I think it was out in a shed. It had been relegated to the shed, and it's comfortable, but not as comfortable as my old black chair was. My black chair had arms on the side of it, and I think I'm going to turn those into a couple little dust collecting vents on the side. And then if I need to, I'll put a small low velocity fan up above my head that kind of blows down. You'll see right now a lot of times as I'm doing this, I kind of have developed over the years a habit of blowing this dust away, and I haven't had a dust collector for the last 6 months, and it's just kind of obnoxious. But the one I'm going to put in will have a floor sweep and all the rest of that stuff. It'll be fun when we finally get around to doing that project. But you can see I switch back and forth between the power and the hand tools. I noticed that Jordy Johnson over at Carving Fusion has put out a call for folks for pumpkin stuff. It's that time of year. Halloween's coming around, and pumpkins. We did a lot of stuff on pumpkins last year. If you're not a subscriber and you want to catch those videos, the best way to do it, of course, is to click subscribe over in the corner. Obviously, leave me a comment. I enjoy reading the comments, and there's a bunch of you that are regular, and I thank you for that. I see the same basic names, plus a few extra popping up now and again. You know, I like to share other carvers in there, and you got Matt Carves is relatively new over there in Queensland. And then, of course, you know that Jordy Johnson and I are good friends, and we follow each other's stuff and occasionally do stupid, silly stuff. Haven't done that for quite a while. And then we got Just Carve Rob. You need to go check Rob's stuff out. Rob's always in there. And of course, you can't go wrong with some of the different ones. If you're a chainsaw guy, obviously chainsaws art is becoming something that it wasn't before. It's becoming more of a mainstream in the carving. Used to be kind of a cute thing. Up here north, you'd have chainsaw carving demonstrations and that sort of thing. And a lot of the work that they were doing in past years was rougher. And now these guys are using, they're using the burrs, they're using grinders, sanders, and various different things. It's not just 100% pure chainsaw anymore. So we're trying to set up and their art, and Ryan Cook is a great representation of that. Ryan's had various different programs in his carving career. It's an interesting story. You should look up Ryan Cook and look at his stuff. And then a friend of his, he's well hooked up in the chainsaw community, and Uncle Kevin helps him out quite a bit and just launched a channel, so and it's doing real well. The subscribers are starting to bounce up there for Uncle Kevin. So, and he's got some really neat stuff. So check those guys out. They're not just chainsaw carvers anymore. They truly are artists, and you should get involved in that. And of course, as always, the master was Gene Messer in my book. Gene Messer's been doing this for many years. He's a humble, simple man, and he's a great character carver. He does everything with a knife, and his goal is to teach you how to carve and enjoy it. So I cut the arms out. They're both going to be the same, and then I cut them in half. So I had a white piece of board, and I did both the arms. And now I'm going to build a peg and peg those arms on there so that they don't break. You can see this guy's coming out kind of cartoony and kind of goofy, And that's just the way it happens. So take a check out all those guys. It's well worth getting in there. If you really want to see some artistic carving, this guy Mike over at Stanton Sticks, Mike is not prolific like the rest of us. He doesn't continue to carve. He really puts time and thought into his projects, and you can tell on the detail that he comes up with. So he's got a boatload of subscribers, and it's good fun to watch. It's not necessarily a teaching as it is more of a just following along and seeing a great artist develop things. So I was talking about, here's a little break in the middle. This is one of probably 10 birds I did last week, and I think I'll put a video out on a couple of them. This is a sparrow, and he's not in my baby bird style. He's a little bit more standing up, and he will end up placed on a mount that hangs on the wall. And one of these days I'll set up and do a whole series on the different birds that I carve. There's a chickadee that I did, a couple chickadees I did for the gallery down in Madison, Wisconsin, and I think I got enough video on one of those to do that. You can see I'm wearing a flannel shirt. I carve typically in the morning at 6 or 7 o'clock. I'll go out and carve in the morning, hence the coffee. And then about 10 or 11, 12 o'clock, I'm done carving, and I got to do other things. Can't make noise around when people are trying to sleep. In my many years in the military, I wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, even if I went to bed at midnight. And I have my coffee, and I'm pretty much done working by about 10 o'clock in the morning, which is kind of strange. About the time a lot of people are getting up, I've done everything I intend to do that day. So here's just a quick short, and you don't get a whole lot on this, but hey, Mike, and Mike, you know who you are. Here's another bird for you, brother. And I may or may not put the video out of finishing this. He's done with my typical style. But this shows you how I get down to the shape without a whole lot of planning. That knife is a Ramelson knife. There's several good knife makers out there. You just have to search them. I would do a knife video, but I'd have to buy a bunch of knives that I don't necessarily need. If you're curious about knives, just ask me in a comment down there or send me an email. The email is studioonthelake88, one word, studioonthelake88 @gmail.com. And as usual, I'd love to hear from you, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you've got. So I was thinking the other day, or actually this morning, I'm back down in Iowa, and that's where I'm editing. I'll be here for another 4 days, today and 3 days really, and then back home and doing some more stuff. And I hope to get back to the Raven and doing some work, and I want to finish that dragon up. I've got an idea to put him into a lamp, and that'll be worth seeing. But there's a bird rough out, and I was thinking of reality TV. I was watching some reality TV shows down here out of boredom, and I was thinking how it would work if you had a chainsaw or a carving reality, and I thought it was kind of funny. I'm trying to figure out how to maybe get Jordy and Just Carve Rob involved in it and do kind of a spoof of it. But every time you do a reality show, as you know, it would be, oh my God, if that arm breaks off on the right-hand side of this guy, it's just going to be catastrophe. And we're up against a deadline. This guy has to be done by noon, and he has to get out, and the shipping has to go and get shipped. And if that arm breaks, then 4 hours of work will be wasted. So will that arm hold up or not? And then when we go to put the string on this guy at the end, is the string strong enough? Is the arm going to break? And if it does, it'll be the end of the world. And then I was thinking, how would you turn Bob Ross into a reality TV show? Yeah, the worst thing he's got on there is, hey, my producer is yelling at me because I've got exactly 2 minutes to finish this. Watch me scare them and put this big tree in there. So reality TV doesn't do much for me. In fact, it annoys me because it's just stupid stuff doing stupid things. And if you read up on it, you got the producer in the background saying, hey, leave that part alone there. Let's make a little bit of a controversy out of that. So no reality TV here. But I'm still thinking, Rob, you think too, and Jordy, you do a little bit of thinking, how we can do a spoof reality TV deal off of, say, a carving show. So Jordy is doing a pumpkin challenge. Those of you that are carvers, check it out. It's on the other stuff. I don't know if I'm going to play and participate in that. I think we did a lot of pumpkin stuff last year or the year before. I don't remember. And I don't know that I'm up to doing some pumpkins. I still have not changed over the 193 still. I put the carving bar and chain on there, even though I do have the sprocket, so I might get around to that next week. It's just that all these other things are taking precedent. So you can see he's starting to look like a bear, a little bit like a bear. A teddy bear, I guess, would be a better representation. That's a white saber burr in there. I'm getting away from the Cutzalls for a while. If you watch the series I did on the burrs, I've noticed the quality in some of the Cutzalls has not been quite up to par. I don't know if that's a result of not the right amount of people in the factory or wherever the heck they make them, or if it's a proponent of the COVID, but I'm sure they'll fix that and correct it. My problem with them has been that the burrs are not balanced, and when we run these things, I run mine pretty much at 40,000. That's the magic number. And at 40,000, they got to be balanced and vibration free, or it gets kind of annoying with that handpiece. And I know it's those specific burrs. I haven't put a micrometer on them to see if maybe it's part of it, but initially I thought it might be a collet problem, and it's not, because all the other burrs run true without the vibration. Now, I will warn you, if you're just starting into this and you buy some burrs, if you drop that handpiece even a foot or 2 foot, it is a great possibility that you'll bang and bend that tip or that shaft just enough that it'll be ruined and it'll start vibrating on you. I've ruined several shafts by accidentally dropping that. Just like if I were to lean over to the right there, that 2 foot from the edge of my chair down to the floor, and when I put it back on the table, if I drop it and it hits right on that tip, that's enough in a lot of cases to throw that burr out of whack. And poof, you're out $15. So here's his feet. I'm just rounding them over very simply. Like I said, when we get to the part where we're putting the string in the arms, and I'll show you the angles there, I have seen ones where the feet are sticking out like the arms, left and right, and then the string, the climbing string, mechanics goes through the feet and through the arms. But in that case, the arms will be straight. See that left arm where it's got the little blue mark going up towards his ear, on a plane with his ear? That's what you need to make that climb. So when you pull down on that string, it's crimped at an angle in that arm, and that arm will make the other arm slide up the left-hand string and then back and forth as you go up. Well, in the case of the feet ones, the upper arms would go straight, parallel, up and down with his vertical with his body. And then the climbing mechanism, that angle on that blue part in the upper right, would be on the feet. And the feet would actually do the climbing. The hands do nothing but let the string pass through. So I roughly drew in, I wanted him to have foot pads because that'd be the bottom of his feet. He's going to have foot pads on his hand. There's those angles I'm talking about for the string. So that would be the angle that has to go when I drill a hole through there. So I want the claws or paws, or the claws part of it, fingers for lack of better reference, to be folded over right there. And then the pad will be obviously underneath. There's a thumb, the forefinger, and for some reason I do 3. Although if you do the anatomical research, most of these animals are like us, they have 5. It might not be an opposable thumb, but there'll be 5 digits there. So big old goofy grin, a little bit of a nose. You can see his eye, and then he'll have that's the motion he's going to climb with. Not much to it, obviously. Fairly simple carving project. He can be rough cutout. It'd be a really good one. People seem to like him. They have no use whatsoever, as does most of this carving stuff. But I've always had one hanging in the corner of the shop or the studio for people to play with. And this seems to be amusing to most people. And kids actually like these for a little while. It's hard to compete with a video game. But every once in a while they'll walk by this. The grandkids will walk by when I had them out in the studio, and they would run him up a couple times, and then after a couple minutes they'd lost interest. So he's got his foot pads in there. That's a ruby burr in there, 3/32, and it does a nice job of carving, but what it really does a good job of is smooth. Now Rob over at Just Carve Rob talked about the ruby bits versus the diamond bits. You can buy a set of diamond bits, the 12, 15, or 20 of them, for $10 or $15. You can buy one ruby bit for between, I think the cheapest one's 12, and then the others are 15 or 17. And Rob says he gets about 6 months out of these. I was thinking about it, and I have to agree. That's probably about the amount of time that I get out of a ruby or a sapphire bit. And one thing is they get smoother and smoother over time. I did tell a story here a couple videos ago. If you've been following along the channel, you know I thought at one point I might be able to clean one of these burrs up with a brick, because when you got a tile diamond cutting saw or something, they recommend you run a part of a brick, ceramic brick, through there, a clay brick, and it'll bring back the diamond cutting surface. Well, I got news for you. If you do that with this, you end up with a really nice burnishing steel. So the ruby and sapphire completely goes away. It's not embedded anything other than surface deep in these. And like I said, you'll end up with a really smooth, really nice burnishing bit. So there he is. Got a big toe, in this case, not a thumb, and then 3 fingers. So he's missing a couple fingers. And I don't know why, but for some reason, if I'm doing these or I'm doing a dragon, I'll typically only do 3 fingers and a thumb, typically. I don't know why, but it would take a lot of brain power to think of why that would be. So you could do any shape you wanted on this. Now, there's another video, and I don't think I have any in here. I might have poked it in towards the end, but there's a little Russian toy that came out of Russia, supposedly. But although I've seen those in Germany and various different places, where they got 2 sticks, a center point, and 2, typically a woodsman and a bear chopping on a stump. I've seen a blacksmith, and there are 2 blacksmiths in there, and I do have, I did want a couple of those because I was asked to do those for down south. And I do have a video, and I'll put a video of that. It's kind of neat, but it's a kid project. So I guess this week is kid toys. Now, there used to be a time when you would get in Hammock or Schlemmer and various different high-dollar catalogs, you could get a wooden toy for your kid and pay ridiculous amounts of money because they were handcrafted. There'd be a fire truck, a dump truck, you name it, excavator, or a pool toy, or a train, and you could pay $1,200, and it was just a wooden toy, because all toys in the old days were wooden. Germany made a bunch of them. I think a lot of the old toys had lead paint on them, which is not a good idea. And 3/4 of the work was in the painting, making them shiny and glossy. The worst thing that, obviously for a kid, and they didn't know this in the old days, was to have lead paint on there. But lead paint was a good paint. It did what it was supposed to do, other than the fact that it gave small children and grown-ups lead poisoning. It worked just fine. I've talked about it a couple years ago. I remember as a kid breaking a thermometer and taking the mercury out of a thermometer and playing with it, running it back and forth between your hands, splitting it and then trying to get it to roll back together and that sort of thing. And those of you that are about my age and that probably all did that, and didn't realize that it was highly toxic at the time, and probably not a good idea. It just proves how resilient we are as people, that we're able to get over trying to poison ourselves as kids. So he's ready for his fur. I've got all the rough carving I'm going to do, and since he is cartoony, I didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to work things out. Now the pencil marks are where I'm going to do the fur. And in that fur, I'm just going to do it with the stoning. I will come back and cut a couple highlights. I didn't film that, I don't think, with the burner, just to get a couple of cleaner lines in there. There's my stone. It's a ceramic stone, and I think it's called a ceramic cut. Don't quote me. It's kind of an inverted cone, and I'm not going to torture you by making you watch me do this whole thing. This is the same technique you would use to do an old man spirit, their beard, a bird, etc. And they're just little short, almost J strokes, because we don't want them to be straight. We want them to curve and go over each other. But there you go. You work all the way down through. You can see that stone doing a little bit of burning as well. I didn't spend a lot on the back of him because he's multi-dimensional. Jordy talks about it all the time. Jordy Johnson at Carving Fusion. Just Carve Rob. He bugged Just Carve Rob when Just Carve Rob started and said, sign it, sign your work. And I have to agree. Always sign your work. There are exceptions where I will not sign things. And if I'm doing a commission piece and it's a higher dollar commission piece, a decoy or something along those lines, typically my commission pieces are decoys, I will ask, would you like it signed? And I'll show them. And this is the same signature I've used for years. It's just the BAM, which are my initials, and then I'll put the year in there. And in some cases, the people that commissioned it will say, no, I don't want that. I don't want the signature on it. And of course, that's their prerogative. I think they rob themselves, and I'm joking here. 50 years from now, when I'm dead, and my work is totally famous and worth $1 million a piece, then they'll rob themselves because they didn't want me to sign it. I think you should sign all your work so people at least have an idea that you did it. You never know, and it doesn't hurt. It's not vanity, I don't think. I think it's just that you kind of owe it to people to put that on there. So you can see I burned around did a little highlight around the paws, around the eyes. I didn't show you doing the eyes. I did those with one of the ruby bits, even though I've got little ideals. Now, this is probably one of my favorite finishes for most woods. This is a dark walnut Danish oil. It's also safe for use on cookware if you get to that point. And I just put it all over here, and then I'll take a little bit of it off with some steel wool when it's dry and highlight the paws and the pads. Other than that, there's no painting on this guy. Just this finish. So there he is. he'll get rubbed down when he dries. And then the next thing left to do here is to put this guy together and make him climb. In other words, the money part. Like I said, this is not a real exciting one, but it's a really good project for someone who's a beginner. To tie the strings on there, I could just tie them on. Obviously, there's going to be a T crossbar at the top. I'll show you that in a little bit. But I wanted some rough cut beads, for lack of better reference, because they're going to have a hole in them where I tie the strings on. And I just took a piece of scrap wood, and then when I was at the bandsaw, I kind of rolled it around in a circle about the size of a bead. And now you can see I'm cutting the corners off of all these beads, and I'm not going to make them completely round. I'm going to leave them a little bit rough, and you'll see that in a minute. I don't think I torture you too long watching this, but you go all the way down one way, all the way back the other way, and this is how you would carve a circle or a spear or a ball. Exact same procedure, and it's a good carving exercise. That could be done just as quick with the power carving. So I fast forwarded, zoomed ahead there on the editing. You can see I'm kind of getting a ball shape there on those. And poof, now they're cut on the bandsaw. So they just need a little bit of work on the part where I cut them off of the long cylinder. And then I'll drill a hole in those, and then the string will go through there and tie. And two of those on the bottom, obviously, will you can also use them with, they work as a hand grip. So we're getting ready to drill this monster. There's the angle it has to be at for him to climb, and that's the only critical part of this whole project. It has to be canted towards his ears, for lack of better reference. And as you pull on one string, it tightens up, and the other string gets loose, and it allows that arm to push the loose arm higher. So there's the T-bar. This piece I'm putting on there is just a loop to hang it over a nail. You can see it in the background there, and I use those little beads to hold it. You could tie it directly to the T-bar there, but it looks a little more professional, I think, and homemade if you do this. Now I left these strings pretty long, and I'm doing the left one. And it's the only string I had. I would have used a little bit heavier, and along the lines of a jute or something, because he would climb better. This guy slips a little bit, and if you get the right string in there, a little bit heavier duty string, he will climb better and then fall better. When you relax, when you tighten up the strings, he will climb, and then when you loosen them, they slide down. The weight of him brings him down. So the left one's done, and the right one's done. You can see, there you go. And I left them pretty long, so you can hang. I'm going to hang them up pretty high, and I would probably shorten those just a little bit. So there he goes. That's how he works, and you can see how if you put the pressure on him, and I'm not holding the balls because I've got him set down a little bit. If you have been looking to see me in a video, this is about as close as you're going to get. I think, as you know, I don't really care to have my mug on TV, or on TV, there we go. You might be watching this on TV, on a video. And there's the bear, slow motion, all good fun. You see my new dust collector in the background. You can see the bandsaw on the left side there. And I haven't got those put together. So you'll see a couple more videos coming up here soon. Once again, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, by all means, subscribe, comment, if you will, and share with other folks if you think it's worth putting out there. Hey, thanks a lot. This has been Ben with Studio on the Lake. I'll see you on the next one.